today in environment and everyday life. The woman can be a professional regardless of her ethnic or racial origin. In this episode, we are accompanied by three great women. Francita Laga is an indigenous woman belonging to the National people, originally from the indigenous reservation of Tacuello in Colombia. She graduated from the University del Valle with a degree in basic education with an emphasis in natural science and environmental education. Alinari, a PhD student in science and health education at the Instituto Nutes of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. Priscila Tapajo-Wara, born in Santarém, Pará, from the Tapajo people, one of the 13 towns of the lower Rio Tapajos in the Amazon. An indigenous militant, climate activist, photographer, and visual producer. We start with the question, what does it mean to be an indigenous woman or black woman in Western society?
Being an indigenous woman means resistance. I believe that indigenous women are in a constant fight against sexism, invisibility, in verbal, physical, sexual, and economic violence, or of any kind that affects integrity. Therefore, we must fight for the right to express ourselves, to say what we feel, what we think, and to be heard. In this way, day by day, we claim our rights. Society has a very marked role for us, especially within indigenous communities, in which, although women are a fundamental pillar in the family, they are also required to be a mother and a housewife. But I want to emphasize that we can assume other roles, conquer other spaces that generate a healthy coexistence and well-being. For indigenous women, it is hard work because, in addition to assuming the role of housewife, the household chores, or raising their children, she is also dedicated to weaving, dancing, agriculture, the transition of a cultural legacy to their generations, to the teaching of values in their language. In general, all of these responsibilities rest on their shoulders. Nasa women are warriors, who not only take care of their own, but also those around them. They can occupy representative positions and be excellent leaders, such as Saray Vitonias, former governor and current education coordinator of the Taqueyo Reservation, Flor Eva Troches, former mayor of Jombalo, who won the National Award for Best Rulers for the Elimination of Poverty, or Ada Kilkew, current advisor for the rights of indigenous people at ONIC. All of these women work to bring well-being to their communities and raise their voice in defense of life and territory. At the level of Colombia, among all indigenous peoples, there are outstanding women weaving important organizational, political, educational processes, and in general, they carry it out with courage, with the pride of having their roots and their identity in the face of a world that discriminates against them, denies them possibilities, or does not understand their ways of proceeding, since they do not coincide with the logic of a globalized and consumerist world.
Being a woman means overcoming the challenges that are imposed on you, such as sexism, among other existing discriminations. Now, being a woman and a black woman, you have these challenges doubly. In a small part of society, we see a conscience regarding racism, but it's still necessary to break some paradigms, such as curly hair and dry skin, which are seen as bad by society as a result of historical process of construction of racism based on the phenotype and physical characteristic of people. Therefore, all these traits, which are characteristic of people of African origins, are constructed as bad and ugly, but it's necessary to demystify this placed bad words which is different from the white characteristics. There are beauty in all women, but each in her own way. Black women are beautiful and diverse. There is no one type of black woman. Africa has 55 countries, most of which phenotypes and culture are mostly completely unknown to majority of the world's population. As only one story is told, the history of whites and the West. The same can be seen in different professional fields, where it is common to expect her to occupy a low position and not a high executive position, another stereotype concerning blacks that was built in the last 500 years.
We indigenous women who live in cities fight and others fight daily against racism, prejudice, and the stereotypical image that is created of our body. We suffer abuse for our looks and speech because a stereotypical vision of our body was created. Our body was created as an object of desire of the white man, and because of this vision, many women suffer abuse and put our lives at risk. So we fight daily against that vision and also against prejudice for being a woman, because of racism for being indigenous. Our struggle is daily because we have to recover our rights. As an indigenous woman, we fight for our territory even though we are not in them. We are not fighting for the territory. We are fighting for Mother Earth. We are fighting for our women's right, for good health, for law that protects us. We fight for an occupation of workspace, be it the job market or in the university. Today, indigenous women are facing the struggle for our territory. Also, it is a struggle to occupy our voice. So, in recent years, we are occupying these new spaces. We are talking more. We are facing our territories. And as women, we have meaning of a very great importance because we are resistant. We are strength. We have wisdom. We are life and love. It is through us that our children and our grandchildren know our culture. Through us, the wisdom of our knowledge is passed on to the youngest. And in our struggle, we are fighting for Mother Earth. Because we are similar to Mother Earth, we give life. We feed our children and husbands, as well as Mother Earth. Then we fight for her as well.
Why should we not allow our ethnic racial origin to be an obstacle to being a professional?
I believe that being an indigenous woman does not make us less than others. We are intelligent, capable, talented, and although it is true that most of us do not come from families with comforts, with the inner strength that characterizes us, we have advanced our careers, we have surpassed the economic barrier to be able to study. I think that all academic, political, and labor spaces belong to us. We can become everything we dream of. We can make history, dedicate ourselves to research, to fight for a better world for future generations. Being a professional woman opens up a world of possibilities for us. It allows us to see life from another perspective and make more accurate and conscious decisions, such as deciding at what point in our lives to form a family, when to have children, deciding what to study, and how to contribute to our community of origin with the knowledge acquired. This gives us the possibility of integrating Western knowledge with our own knowledge that our children and young people need, since their knowledge also contributes to the development of the Western world.
Skin color does not prove who a particular person is or what their capacity is for a certain function. Unfortunately, in some parts of the world, such as the Americas, black people were enslaved for centuries, and when there was a supposed liberation of enslaved people, there was no compensatory process of social insertion. These people were thrown onto the margin of society because they were not even considered citizens, since they did not have the right to vote or the acceptance to work with dignity. Therefore, it's clear that they would continue to work in subordinate activities, such as those of a domestic worker. Over the years, we can see that it's very difficult for a black woman in the labor market to reach the same level as a white woman, because the white woman already has a whole family and history of support behind her professional training, unlike the black woman who had to survive before attempting to turn professional. This shows that those who manage to achieve a certain degree of study manage to overcome and win beyond what is necessary. Nowadays, if we compare the curriculum of a black woman with that of a white woman, she realizes that we need to have a curriculum far beyond expectations, an exceptional curriculum to show that we are good, to attract attention and gain professional recognition. In other words, ethnicity or race, and here we speak sociologically, because this story of believing in biological racial differentiation has passed, it proves that every black woman had to overcome many obstacles in her daily life to get and stay where she is. That is why the quote system and other forms of affirmative action are so important, because they make equality and fairness possible.
In the society we live in, there is a lot of prejudice regarding indigenous peoples because there is still a stereotype vision, a vision created by the colonizer, not only about the body of the indigenous woman, but also as a wild being. A being that is not adaptable to the civilized world, a being that knows nothing, that has been carried forward until today. So, 19 years later, that vision is still held against indigenous peoples, and we are here to show the society that we are not savages, that we are included in the society, and that we are occupying and can occupy any type of space we want. Today, we find indigenous people who are actors in the cinema, writers, teachers, designers, models, photographers, expansions, salespeople. They show that we indigenous people can be anywhere, in any space, and that we are within the city, we have clothes, we have a cell phone, we are working in another space that is not within our territory, and that does not mean that we are no longer indigenous. That does not diminish our ancestry. No, it does not diminish. No, none of that. And we can and must occupy all spaces, spaces that were not given to us. Today we are occupying them, and we need to continue occupying those spaces more. So, it is very important that a young man who had to leave his village and come to the city, that he occupies those new spaces, beats on his chest talking about his culture, his people, that he does not abandon that, but that he occupies other spaces. The same goes for the indigenous relatives who are within the territory, that they are also occupying spaces. They are showing the struggle of their community, showing the culture of their community, and showing other people that if we are capable and can exercise certain functions, and that we accompany the world in its development.
Finally, Francie, Aline, and Priscilla, what message would you give to all of us women?
Women, always remember that we are stronger than we think, that we must assert our rights, never allow someone to yell at you, tell you that you cannot or that you are an inferior being. You have the right to say no. I do not want to, or I do not like that. Your opinion is valid. No type of violence can be part of your life because we carry within a transforming power. We can flood the world with love and teach the true value of life. Thank you.
One message I leave with you is that you need to persist. Difficulties will come and we are far from changing. But if everyone does their part little by little, today will be closer than yesterday.
The message I leave for indigenous women is that we do not stop being the keepers of wisdom, being that person who teaches young people, but we also need to occupy other spaces. If you want to enter a university, if you want to work in other areas, be a doctor, be a photographer, be a veterinarian, be an entrepreneur, be a salesperson, be a model, a designer, it doesn't matter what role we want to exercise, but we need to occupy spaces. We need to show that we women are fighting for our territory, yes, but we are also fighting for our spaces and we are occupying them.
We appreciate the participation of Francie, Aline, and Priscilla. We have learned that women must fight, resist, and persist in the face of obstacles that arise. Also, I want to say thank you to Alexis Boxy, who did the voice of Francie Talaga, to O'Dwyer, who did the voice of Aline Neri, and Diana Sakina, who did the voice of Priscilla Tafahuwara. Next time we will speak about women in politics. Thank you.